But for the life of me, what difference does it make?
Well, you're getting sucked in by this PC minority who are taking over.
I'm actually using brains and common sense.
No, you're not. Because
I'm not using common sense because I disagree with you, Mike.
Yeah, exactly. You look at Topshop. I mean, now what has Topshop said? They've made it national news. That they've got gender-free changing rooms.
I imagine.
So what is all the pervs in the world now?
I imagine there's some curtains that you can actually go behind if you.
It's not difficult to walk in the wrong way.
Yeah. I mean, it's like gender-neutral toilets. You've just got a long row of cubicles, haven't you? It's not like
you have a door. You have a door there in the toilet.
Perform in front of somebody.
Well, but if you go to France, I mean, it's a totally different effort.
Toilet doors on the ones on the motorways. We went on one, didn't we? It was mixed sex with no doors.
I mean, we've got gender-neutral toilets on aeroplanes. Every aeroplane I've ever been on has got gender-neutral bloody facilities. So what's the big deal?
You're talking.
I think some people find titillation in this thing.
Titillation, yes.
Yeah, titillation. That's exactly right. Because all the pervs in the world are going to go now to. They're probably all queuing up in Topshop now, waiting for it to open.
Very much
to go in there and sort of they'll go in there with their because
I know that women like to look at fit men. I get that.
Mike's got a season ticket,
but I don't think they'll be queuing up to go to Topshop just because some chap's getting his shirt off.
No. It's not the bloke getting his shirt off. It's the bloke there because he's going out and he's got a skirt that he wants to try on. So he's gender neutral bender, and he walks in there and he pulls the curtains open because he thinks that cubicle's free.
Knowing damn well it isn't.
But there's a woman in there, in a scantily dressed little pink bra.
You are having a real fantasy boy, aren't you? Look at
No.
The poor fellow's gone bright red.
Yeah, we know really well what Mike's on about, don't we?
Right, look, yes, of course we know. In all seriousness, I suppose they'll try it and see what happens.
Yeah, but what is going to happen? Because
I'll tell you what will happen.
The police aren't interested because it's less than £10.
Look, I'll tell you what will happen. People will vote with their feet. If commercially Topshop are losing business as a result of their changing rooms, they will very quickly change it back. If they're not losing business, it means people don't bloody care.
I'm with Alan on that one. I think that will happen. But what seems to be missing with some of this is to give people to retain that sense of privacy. We could talk about mixed wards here at hospitals and so on. Or even in the same ward, instead of it being a female ward, you've got a couple of little bays that are actually men wards. So if you get up and get out of bed and you walk to the toilet, well, you could be passing the men and vice versa, this, that and the other, in a state of, some sort of distress because you're in hospital and you're not quite dressed to go out where people can see you in your normal clothes. People are seeing you in your night clothes and so forth.
People are quite
and I think that is an
they?
issue. Privacy is being taken away. But I do accept that in these gender-neutral changing rooms, I would hope that there would actually be some form of solid door. And when you put the latch on, it actually says this is occupied.
Yeah, this is what Topshop are sort of maintaining at the moment. They're going to make sure that there are doors and got going on. But I mean, it's interesting you should say that because I mean, in my mother's care home, and I've got to go and see her tomorrow. It's her 94th birthday. But in the room next door to her, she had a bloke, and they're all single rooms, self-contained sort of thing. But had a bloke, and this bloke, he's actually passed on now, sadly, but he never wore clothes, and he always used to walk past the room, and the door would be open, and he would be sitting there on his bed, starkers.
You get one everywhere, don't you?
And apparently he was maintaining his, let's not put too fine a word, but maintaining his wedding tackle, and when the carers, nursing staff used to go in there and see
himself.
Yeah, and they used to say, oh, I'm just polishing it. So they would say, well, that's all right. It looks okay. And all right. But God bless him, I mean, he's an old fella, and that was it. Talking about old people, there's a woman of 107, and using a Zimmer frame, was hit by a £70 parking fine for returning to her car 13 minutes late. Bessie Farnworth popped out for lunch last month with a great-nephew, Dave Holland, using her blue badge to park in a supermarket disabled spot. Blue badge still driving at 107. Questionable there, but however. After the meal, widow Mrs. Farnsworth was escorted with her Zimmer back to the car by Mr. Holland. But 2 weeks later, car park operators in Manchester, called Park and I, sent a £70 parking fine for overrunning their free 3-hour stay by just 13 minutes. However, guess what, Bob? The firm has now apologised, however, and cancelled the ticket as a gesture of goodwill to the great-grandmother who used to work in Mallyon. Well, of course it is, you know.
Fair play to him for that.
Yes.
And I'm surprised Alan hasn't jumped in here yet. Because if it is 3 hours or 2 hours, whatever the limit is, if you go over, it doesn't matter whether you're 10 years old, you're 50 years old, 190, it does not matter. You are still late, and therefore you are you stand a chance of being fined. So look, I would actually say a little bit of goodwill and common sense has come in here, and fair play to the actual the parking people in this instance.
I think you're absolutely right there, because I've often, I've said this all the way along. I don't have any objections. If you foul the law, the rules, then you should get fined for it.
What's this slur on my? Of course I don't think that Granny should have paid a parking fine. Of course, there has to be rules in the sand somewhere, but absolutely the human element to be able to deal with a difficult situation. If somebody's giving birth, they might be a bit late back to their car. It's not their fault, and they shouldn't be fined for it. Or you've got to have common sense come into the equation. Of course you have. You also need to have rules.
Yes, of course you do. Yeah, right. This is Sharon K on a Saturday morning. I'm Mike Barry. I'm Bob Bluffield.
I'm Kev Slaymaker.
I'm Alan Mallyon.
And together we are
the Grumpy Old Men.
Asenya and Shepherd Moon's here.
Lovely, isn't it? I like that.
On CRMK, of course. And in 20 minutes' time, we will have Decades from Dave and Charlotte. And I don't really know where this last... that's another Red Bull coming out. That's another... no, I said that. Yeah, that's... I don't know where the time's gone on the show, actually, but Alan wants to bring up a fairly sort of... a bit frightening, really.
It is frightening.
Well, it's a statistic that my mate Norman Lamb managed to get on a Freedom of Information request, that every 6 minutes somebody is being physically restrained with mental illness in this country. I just think that's something that is a national scandal. Yeah,
and it's the way they restrain them as well. Have you seen the way they do it? You know, they almost choke them.
I think that we are underestimating the requirement for spending on mental health. I think that needs to be addressed, and we've got a situation where even this spills over to the police, who are now tasked more and more with dealing with mental health issues as a result of the resources being taken away from the NHS. So, you know, we need to, as a nation, start putting more resources into mental health. It's a bigger issue, and I think that the local NHS Trust and CCGs, clinical commissioning groups, ought to be spending more of the resources and diverting more resources into the mental health issues that we've got locally.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, they there's a lot of people out on the streets who shouldn't be there now, which are a danger as well, who should be under the Mental Health Act, and there's nowhere to put them, is there?
Well, we've got a situation where people go on about homelessness in Milton Keynes, and in my limited amount of research, and I accept that it's limited, there is a percentage of people that, one, actually choose homelessness as a lifestyle, and two, have got mental issues where they really ought to be in some sort of sheltered institution that protects them from the outside world.
That's right, quite right. We were saying this yesterday, weren't we, about homeless people and connected with mental health as well. Yeah,
so that, so it's not just one thing. There are a mixture of homeless people. There are some people that are genuinely homeless as a result of just things going wrong in their life. There's people who choose it as a lifestyle option because that's just the way they want to be, and that's fine as well. And people who really have mental health issues, and I think the number of mental health issues is rising. The police say that's rising as well. I mean, we talk about police work. We've given the police quite a hard time over the last sort of month or two about their response to criminal activities, but I did have the great pleasure once of speaking to Sir Peter Fahey, who was the Chief Constable of Manchester Police, and when I was talking to him, he was talking about health issues. It was related to health issues, and what he was saying is, something like 70% of his police time and resource is actually dealing with mental health issues of one form or another, and that does include, of course, alcohol abuse and drug abuse.
Yeah, indeed, yeah.
Because really and truly, he's saying that for a great deal of it isn't really a police matter; it's more of a health issue. And so, what are we doing about that?
We're cutting budgets, aren't we?
We're cutting budgets. That's a great way forward, isn't it?
Right.
That's the current administration. Just cut away from the wrong places. Politics is all about choices. The art of politics is making choices on how you spend limited resources. I do think the current government have got it wrong when they are taking away from the poorest and the weakest in society. I think that's fundamentally wrong. I don't actually think that the Labour people, of course, have got it right by offering to spend money that we don't have on everything to solve every problem. But definitely we need to divert more resources into mental health.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay, I mean, that's it, listener. If you
that's my political
if you've got any
rant for the day.
I was
going to bring up about Corbyn trying to get the votes lowered to 16, and somebody was saying this